everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who don't want to live in survival mode and instead want to really thrive and find freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Hi there.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us on this Friday. Woohoo!
Yep. It's a good...
I'm never going to be convincing at that, am I?
Yeah, you need to work on your woohoos.
Oh, okay.
Especially on Friday.
Anyway, this week we are talking about community, and since it's Friday and we work our way through the CSCs, we are talking about being complete. Complete is when you are using your entire self and you are fully engaged with what is actually happening. You're not living in the past or the present or in denial or,
Yeah, it's way too easy to go to those extreme places. Worry is casting our mind into this imaginary future that will never come, and regret and bitterness is obsessing about the past somehow, and we can't change that either.
Right. Yeah, and just even that emotional compound interest that we've talked about, like that's a form of not being complete too, because we're bringing all this stress that doesn't actually have anything to do with the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's way too easy to get sucked into living in the past. I mean, I know it doesn't take much for me to have a certain memory, or I don't know, just sometimes things just pop into your head and you're like, man, I haven't thought about that in years, and then start to feel some of those old feelings again and stuff. What are you smiling about?
I was just thinking about earlier this week when you're like, remember the Zest commercial?
Yeah.
And then
the 90s. Right.
Zestfully clean.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then it was like totally in my head for, yeah.
It's still
I didn't
in my
even
head.
know that I
don't know.
remembered it, but
yeah, I don't know
as
what
soon
brought
as you
that
were
up.
like, oh, remember that? I was like, now it's there again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. First, I guess, so just to get a little bit more into what some of these tendencies are and what we want to, what some of the problem is I can definitely see the like, I don't want to get caught up in bitterness or regret. Like that's definitely a negative thing, right? We don't want to get obsessed with that.
Right.
I think some people get obsessed with the good old days and all these fond memories, but they're still kind of back there in the past in their mind because they haven't, and because it's stuff they like. They enjoy reminiscing, but you can't just reminisce all the time.
Kind of makes me think about Harry Potter.
Okay.
Everything.
I think it'd be fun to, use a book illustration or something every Friday, but we don't have one. Well, maybe we do have one for today now.
I do have one for today. I was thinking about in book 1 where Harry ends up finding the mirror of Erised.
Yeah.
Where he's looking into the mirror and it shows you whatever your deepest heart's desire is, and it shows his family. And he just sits in front of the mirror and looks at it. And finally, Dumbledore talks to him and says, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live.
Yeah. That is a good reminder.
Yeah. I think we do that, though. And either end of the spectrum, whether we're caught in the past or the future, it's almost like we're stuck behind this. We're looking at something through a wall of glass.
Yeah.
And so we can't actually change it because we're not right in front of it, but we're spending all that time, like Harry, staring into this mirror. And we think that we're doing something about it because our brain is engaged. And I know that's a tendency for me to think that, when I'm worrying, I'm helping solve the problem.
Sure. Yeah. We think we're problem solving.
Right. But really, there is a point. There's a time and a place for risk management, for planning ahead. So we're not saying don't plan ahead.
Yeah, but that's not what worry is.
Right. Yeah. Worry is obsessing about the future. So, yeah, I think we think that we're accomplishing something when really we can't even touch the problem. We're just staring at the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so eye-opening for me, just thinking about, I knew that thinking about the past, either, because of a trigger and it's like, this trauma negative thing that I wish I could just forget, or, just daydreaming about some bygone good old day or whatever is just as useless. I mean, yeah, it's just as problematic as worrying. Like both ways, you're kind of in your imagination. I mean, one is you're remembering actual things that happened, but you could still be putting a twist on it. Like, oh, that was a really good day when, it's kind of like an Inside Out where the memory, like if you just went 2 seconds past the sad part of the memory, there was the good part, right? Or when sadness touched it, like it was a good memory, and then all of a sudden, right next to it is this sad memory too. And so, it's not now, so that's the part of the problem. But if we're just like, I just want to remember the good things, and you're cutting out and editing your own memory of like bad things,
right?
Or the opposite way, you're throwing out all this good stuff, and you're just focused on the bitterness stuff. It's not helping us any.
Right. I think it plays into that victim mentality. Because you're like, I can't change this, and you feel helpless. And so you bring that helplessness into your present, and you don't fully engage with the present, you know?
Yeah. So I think it's possible to consciously dwell on that stuff and be like, I'm going out of my way. I'm making a point to worry about the future or to dwell on the past. But there's also all kinds of things, and we call them triggers, that can pull you there against your will. Yeah. I mean, it could be a smell. It could be a song that comes on the radio. You could drive by a landmark and you're like, I remember. And then you're thinking about this friend that you haven't talked to in 30 years and you're missing them. And you're like, oh, did I ruin the relationship? Like it just starts this whole thing. And it's just like, oh my goodness, how did I get here? And it was just one little thing. You had no control over it, but boom, you're back.
Somebody could try to feed you hot dogs.
Yeah. Or we could walking through the grocery store and I could try to convince you to buy us corn dogs.
And then I'm like, oh man, every time I've had a hot dog, I throw up. I think too, that can happen with a group dynamic. And since we're talking about communities, it doesn't just happen personally, whether that is, my entire family hates lemon desserts. And it's because one year we had a lemon dessert for someone's birthday and we all got really sick around that time.
You had the flu, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But ever since then...
Didn't have anything to do with the dessert.
Nope.
But everybody was throwing up. I wasn't
everybody
there, but
puked that particular cake. And
such a hilarious family story.
That's because you weren't there, honey.
Just hearing about it, it's funny.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy because in my family, with 9 people in the family, desserts never got thrown away, but half of that cake went in the trash. So, yeah, it could be something like that, or, a relationship with, like, your grandmother that still pinches your cheek when you're 50 years old.
Well, and some things are not such big, vortexes into the past. Like, if you see a piece of lemon something, you're not, like, seized up with dread or something.
No.
You just have this memory and it's like, oh man, I remember that and I do not want to do that again. And you'll just pass. Right?
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't bother me when people serve lemon stuff. Yeah. I'm just like, all right, go ahead.
So you're not getting obsessed with, regret or bitterness or something.
No.
But it is changing your behavior now,
This is true.
It made its mark.
Yeah, it definitely did.
And we can't control all that stuff. I mean, that's part of our lives, I mean,
right.
I know certain songs come on and I think of certain people and it's just like, wow, that could have gone better. And I mean,
but we can choose where we go from there.
That's right. Well, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, the initial thing, but we can choose. There's ways not to get sucked down that vortex.
Right.
We should talk about some of those ways before we're out of time.
Tapping is one that I'm always going to recommend.
Yeah.
I think too, because when I was writing the notes for this, I was thinking about changing the group dynamics. Because just like we talked about on Tuesday with that mob mentality or, the energy of a group, sometimes a group can get sucked in the past where you're stuck relating to each other the same way you did 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And it can feel very daunting to be like, okay, I am only one member of this group and this needs to change. But one member can change the entire dynamics of the group.
Yeah. And it all has to do with how say something triggers the group and everybody starts to go down a very familiar path. This is something our craniosacral therapist would say because this, on an individual level, when we'd start to go down into like a pain or something or a memory, she'd be like, okay, back off of that and go into observe mode. And that was so helpful, because otherwise it's like, oh, I know what to do here. I get sucked down into this thing and then my whole day is ruined. And she's just like, wait a minute. And it just took one extra voice to say, here's an alternative.
Right.
Let's just observe this. Let's say, oh, I noticed that pain, And so one person in a group could be like, guys, can we just hang on a second? Haven't we gone down this path before? Can we just observe what's happening here? And that could be enough of a shift to get you into a more productive groove than
right, exactly,
falling down that. One person can really make a difference.
I think also if you are someone who is aggressively present, you can kind of, be that. Because if you're not aggressively present, you can't be that voice, because you're going to be sucked down too. So that's kind of the first step, is to make sure that you're complete yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Practice these things yourself, and then you'll be a better group member for everybody around you.
Right, exactly. And then one of the other ones I wrote down is pray that God, because he's the only one that can change people's hearts.
Yeah.
We cannot convict people of sin. We cannot convince people that they really need to grow. We just can't. If it's a problem you can help someone with, it's not their actual problem.
Yeah, that's a good line.
So hopefully that's encouraging to you guys. I mean, I know I need encouraged that one voice can make a difference, Yeah. You can light a single candle in the darkness.
Is that a song?
Well, yeah, but it's also from that quote, like, to light a single candle in the darkness rather than sit and curse the darkness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who was that? Somebody said, some president's wife said that or something.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah, that's a good quote.
Yeah, I like that one. Anyway, we love you guys and we are praying for you. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend and that, you can bring the CSCs into your weekend also.
Yeah, and do try to enjoy the weekend, because we're going to bring it way down next week and talk about responsibility. So everybody snap in line.
Oh my goodness. We are not going to talk about it like that, peeps.
With 2 more weeks left of these 5 principles of whatever it is, from the Dr. May book.
5 principles of a life lived with consecrated intent.
There you go. So 2 more weeks of this, and then we'll be a week into February, and we'll see where we go.
Yeah, if you guys have any suggestions of topics, we would love to hear them, because we're always looking for what is helpful for our listeners to talk about.
Yeah, let us know on Facebook, or you can make a comment on the episode on our webpage, or comments on YouTube.
Twitter.
We're on Twitter, yeah. We'd love to hear from you.
Have an awesome weekend, you guys.
Talk to you later.